Skip, I think you had a question for me.
Yeah, after going through his oeuvre and really kind of reevaluating Bronson, who we have not mocked, but imitated many times. Even though it's funny, I noticed in almost all of his films, he has a lisp, and no one ever mentions it.
What are you going to bring that up to Bronson?
Well, yeah, I'm not going to tell him to his face. Sure. But my question was, who do you think is the modern Charles Bronson? I think I know what my answer is.
Okay.
I'm curious as to what you think.
I guess this is how we define what that is. When I think of Charles Bronson,
Sure.
you think of, I'd say, kind of a shorter persona, a little bit timeless, acting through gritted teeth in a way. Lots of like playing the same character, somewhat action-based, but also somewhat everymanish. Also maybe has like some weird films thrown in there.
Mm-hmm.
Which of those elements should I focus on in this particular quandary?
That's a good question, because when you say those qualifiers, I automatically think Bruce Willis.
Mm-hmm.
Which is obviously the reason that they did the remake of Death Wish with Bruce Willis, which is terrible. But no, I don't think it's that, personally.
Okay. Now, sometimes our minds are this weird simpatico.
Absolutely.
Where, we share the same existence at the same time. But sometimes it can be hard to find that connection. And I wonder if I'm going to disappoint you by not naming who you might think.
Well, you're not going to disappoint me either way. I don't know if we'll agree right off the bat. We can argue it.
Okay, there are 3 individuals that come to mind.
I couldn't think of that many. That's crazy.
Well,
okay.
We'll see if any of these fit for you.
Okay.
The first one comes to mind is Tom Hardy.
Interesting. Okay.
There's a consistent action element. His performances are never generally that broad. Fairly not anti-emotional, but subsumed.
Okay.
When you see his face and you think of him speaking, it's always kind of like, he's not really opening his mouth a lot. It's kind of like that stony exterior. He also mixes in, again, fairly action-based, but kind of these weird projects every once in a while. Be it a Venom in a way, a Locke, a Taboo TV show.
That's interesting.
Bronson, early in his career.
But the irony of him playing indeed. Bronson.
Another one that kind of came to mind is
some of his Guy Ritchie stuff I could see.
Yeah. So I think this one fits the least, but it did pop to my head, was a Ryan Gosling.
Right. Did you say Ryan Gosling?
Ryan Gosling, yes.
Okay.
Now this kind of only sticks in my craw a bit in his Nicholas Winding Refn years.
Sure.
Where it was that and like Ides of March, again, somewhat robotic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Charismatic, but an unevocative charisma. I think he's kind of like his stuff before that and stuff after that kind of disqualifies him, but in that short period of time, that's kind of like top of my head.
So we're not considering Lars and the Real Girls then, is what you're saying?
I mean, if it is, well, Lars, I mean, it kind of fits a little more in that, but probably not. And it's tough. Okay, maybe I'm a little bit angry white guy with a gun and a chip on his shoulder pilled in this frame of mind, but a Liam Neeson.
Interesting.
I just kind of like
interesting.
The latter half of his career is very like Death Wish inspired. So I think I'm just kind of like conflating those 2 personas into the same brain space.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, no, there's nothing wrong with that. No, it makes sense.
Yeah. I don't think any of those were what you were looking for.
No.
So I'm going to cede my time and because I could keep coming up with things. I mean, like there's elements of like a Josh Brolin, but he also has some wild swings that don't fit.
The senator has ceded his time.
I do not recall, Mr. Representative.
Okay, well, actually, you know what the Liam Neeson thing is? I think great. I think that is a very good alternative to my theory. I think that is probably one of the better that I could possibly think of. he did kind of like pigeonhole himself into that type of role. And I think for good reason. I mean, well, actually, I don't know. Because, like, I don't know why he's that guy. Just like Bruce Willis, like, you know, it was one of those things where it was like, well, I don't know why he's that guy. It shouldn't work, but it does because of Die Hard. Now he's an action star. With Liam Neeson, it's like with Taken, now he's an action star. Because Liam Neeson didn't do shit like that before that. You know?
No, he had occasionals, but...
Sure, but I mean, he was more of the Love Actually type actor before that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, he had like plenty of like, you know, your Rob Roy. And
yeah. Sure, but
Excalibur
Rob Roy... Yeah, but those weren't the Taken type archetypes.
No, post Taken, and then you get, you know, the Gray, and then like the Commuter, and now it's just a cookie cutter kind of vibe to all of his stuff.
And don't forget, you had 3 Taken movies. And
how could I possibly forget all 3 Taken movies?
You know what? I have seen all 3. I couldn't tell you what happens in most of them.
I mean, I think I got the first one down, and the second one, his wife, because I think that's the Famke Janssen gets kidnapped. Does that sound right? 3, I have no recollection of at all.
Yeah, I have.
Is it his dog? Does his dog get taken?
It's his ferret.
His family of ferrets gets taken.
Togo gets kidnapped.
Wait, Pogo and Kodo? Is that what?
No, Pogo and Kodo. Yes. That's one of the other reasons I wanted to talk about Action Boys, which I know you'll never listen to, but it's so funny to me because they have these running bits where they just like us, where they continue over to other episodes, and they have this whole thing about they started off with talking about how bad like Chris Pratt is about like apparently he proselytizes on set all the time.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Like Zachary Levi, you know, and like until I don't know how they got to it, but like they have all these recurring characters because they do a lot of impressions. One of them, which is Dar from Beastmaster, which cracks me up every fucking time. Yeah, one of the other ones is RoboCop, not Peter Weller, RoboCop, and so they always have this running bit about how, because it started in one episode about how like what if RoboCop was in Jurassic World and he kept proselytizing to RoboCop, who's like, look, man, I've got it covered, like leave me alone, like I am the Messiah figure, like I get it, I'm just trying to get stuff off of the, you know, of the food table. Leave me alone. And they always just insert Dar in there constantly. Like, hey guys, what's up? You guys need anything done? Or it's so fucking funny. It kills me because that's exactly what you and I would do. But I totally see the Liam Neeson thing. I do. I think that's a really good answer. But I have 2. One is, I think, a little weak. The other one, I think, dead on. Okay. The weak one, I think, is Gerard Butler.
Okay. I can...
Looking through, because I've watched a lot of Gerard Butler movies. So Tubi...
You are poisoning your brain.
Well, I watch a lot of Tubi, okay? Tubi, their recommendations are sadly spot on for the most part. If I'm in a certain mood. Oh, that's another funny reoccurring bit from Action Boys. Was they always do Hell Comes to Frogtown when put your top on. Oh no, put your top on. So like Gerard Butler, he does a lot of like weird big swings, but also he's kind of samey in a lot of his films. He's the action guy. His like I mentioned over text, I forgot that I had seen, but I have seen Den of Thieves,
which I still need to see.
It's okay. I don't think you're going to love it.
I think there's a reason I didn't see it in the first place.
Right, exactly. But people love it. People fucking love that movie.
Which is why I feel like I need to see it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's for that reason, it's worth it. I think it's okay. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's what everybody thinks it is. I think there are like everybody who watches that, I just go watch Heat. instead, the Michael Mann movie. Like,
Well, maybe it's because they don't have
You know what I mean?
3.5 hours to watch Heat. Maybe that's why.
well, that actually might be part of it. But yeah, whatever. I mean, Gerard Butler's stuff is really kind of samey. He flips back and forth. He has done a lot of like sci-fi stuff, but it's mostly sci-fi action disaster stuff. So I mean, that's kind of whatever. But like, a lot of his stuff is like, oh, I'm a drunk cop who cheats on his wife or whatever, and that's my role. I mean, I've even watched recently a couple of like actual just straight up dramas that he's done, which sadly bored the shit out of me. But
What's a straight up drama he's done?
he did one where his kid got cancer. Fuck, what is it?
A Family Man?
Yeah, A Family Man.
That's fucked up that I just like looked at his films like, wow, that's the one.
That's weird. It is the one. That is the one. I watched it yesterday. And it's like, yeah, it's okay. It's fine.
Is there one where he's like a ghost? Or
you might be thinking of Liam Neeson in High Spirits.
Could be. I'm pretty sure there's one where he's a ghost. Or like
Ghost
his
dad?
Is it P.S. I Love You? Is that?
Oh, we don't need any of P.S.
Yes,
I Love
a young
You,
widow
probably.
discovers that her late husband has left her 10 messages intended to help ease her pain and start a new life. So he's like constantly like there, but kind of in a ghostly form. Just like a memory. Again, it was like, he's going to be a leading man.
Well, yeah, because they did try to insert him in a lot of rom-coms early on too.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, first of all, he's bad at an American accent, so it never really hit. And a lot of the movies he did were just bad. But, just like Bronson, he did work constantly. Gerard Butler works all the time. He very rarely, it seems, turns down a role. Because there will be years where he puts out like 3 movies a year. Like, he's just always working. And I get that. Totally good for him. But most of the roles are kind of the same.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just kind of an action guy who plays like, oh, I'm a cop, or I'm an ex-cop who's dirty, or I'm a crook, or, you know what I mean? Like, it's all kind
I'm a cop who was a crook.
Who became a cop again, or whatever, like, I mean, that is kind of Gerard Butler. But here's my real answer.
Okay, all right.
Jason Statham.
Yeah.
And not just because he did the remake of The Mechanic.
Hey, there's a reason that the Bruce Willis fits so well too.
Yeah, yes. Though I think you and I both agree Bruce Willis is not the guy.
No, but I think later career Bruce Willis fell into that hole that Jason Statham has just always been in.
Yeah. Well, and you know what the sad part is, sidebar about the Bruce Willis thing, is that because he has dementia,
mm-hmm.
And apparently a lot of the movies that he starred in, even like going back quite a while, actually, he had no idea what was going on. He like whomever was managing him was just profiting off of, hey, I'm going to put Bruce Willis in this movie. I'm going to fly him in for one day to record. And Willis had no clue. He could memorize his lines sometimes, but like apparently he like there were certain moments, like even right before the end of his like big chunk of his career, he would have a gun and he was in a shot and he was supposed to like, shoot at a certain time, and he would just randomly shoot because he had no idea what was happening.
Ugh.
So like, I think the late stage of his career is really hard to judge because he wasn't even conscious of it. He was like Stan Lee at the end of his life,
Right,
they were just like propping him up, like, and Bruce Willis very obviously, I mean, since he doesn't make public appearances now, like it's pretty clear that he's not, he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And no, but with Statham, he plays basically the same character every time.
Yep.
Some, variations on it. It's not always the same character, but it's always basically the same character, even if like whatever plot, demands whatever.
Yeah.
But he's always Statham.
But there's never Statham playing a character. It's here's Jason Statham in a film.
Sure, except there are some movies because after I went down this rabbit hole, I started watching a bunch of Jason Statham films, and then so I went through that whole rigmarole, and yeah, for the most part, he's just playing Jason Statham, but there are roles where he's different because like a lot of those roles, they are the Walter Hill Hard Times, Bronson thing where he's not really a character. He's more of like a force of nature that moves throughout the world or whatever.
Right.
But I watched a couple of movies with actually a lot of really good actors in it where, like he does have more subtlety. He has more like nuance and stuff.
What were these?
Fuck. I watched one yesterday actually, and I remember the name of it. There's one where he's like, where it's got the Kieran Gillen, who was Littlefinger in Game of Thrones. He was the villain. He was a serial cop killer. It's a UK exclusive. Like it was shot and written, obviously, all in the UK.
Oh.
In that movie, like Statham plays a guy that's like way more like nuanced than his normal characters. Not to say that he's like three-dimensional, but more substance than most of his characters. Because they talk about PTSD and they go out of a way to say he's a homophobe in modern times, which is like really weird. It's not even a good movie necessarily, but it's got a bunch of really good actors in it and some really interesting stuff. But that's why he reminds me of Bronson. Like, Bronson will play these characters that you just go, oh, he's all the same guy. But then when you watch them, yeah, you'll agree with that. But then every now and then you're like, wait, no, he's playing the same guy, but he's not. Like, he's doing something really interesting here. Or this movie is way more than what we think it is. Or his role is more than we think it is. I have to think, honestly, that Statham is the modern Bronson.
I think that's a good call. I mean, obviously there's the next generation of action stars kind of had to incorporate like a lot of martial arts in there. And then
Sure.
Statham is the generation after that. So instead of like, I'm a tough guy, blammo, he's like, I'm a tough guy, kick and blammo.
Mm-hmm. True. Which is one of the reasons that I really liked Hard Times was because like they don't rely on guns and they don't rely on like obviously modern martial arts, even though it came out in the mid 70s. It's just two dudes like doing straight up like fisticuffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so real and raw that I think it works on like every level. I fucking love that movie. It's a really good one. And James Coburn is fucking great in it.
I'm just going through all these Jason Statham movies. I've seen a lot of these. This is surprising to me.
Right? Isn't it weird that you've seen more than you think? I've even seen Beekeeper.
Oh, yeah. Beekeeper's fun. I've heard The Working Man is even better, supposedly.
Beekeeper's like their effects and their staging and everything is really bad, though.
Yeah, but I'm also watching The Beekeeper, so I keep my expectations low.
Yeah, but even like his work on like Hobbs and Shaw is better, and like
Hobbs and Shaw is not better.
Transporter.
The Transporter films, I think, are better.
Yeah, I just mean effects wise and everything, because like there are moments where you're like, oh, those are digital squibs, and oh, he's on a green screen instead of actually being where they are in Beekeeper. It's like it just feels cheap. It feels low budget. It feels B-movie. It looks B-movie.
I concur with those things.
Yeah. But like a lot of his other movies don't do that. Like he does have a lot of movies that don't look that way or feel that way. Like surprisingly. Except for the one with Jet Li, where he's got that terrible fucking wig on the entire time. Which you're like, dude, just let's be honest.
I think at that point he was like, that was his. I mean, he'd been in the two Guy Ritchie things, And then,
which he's great in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is Snatch still the best film he's ever been in?
Probably.
I guess, unless you count Collateral, but he's barely in Collateral.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Collateral is that Donner? That's Donner, right? Collateral?
No.
It's not?
Collateral is Mann. Am I right? Yeah, Michael Mann.
Is it Michael Mann?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was Donner. Either way, yeah. I mean, that is, I think, objectively his best movie. But you're right; he's not in it.
Yeah, it's not him. It's not his film.
No, it's not. It's not it's not a Statham film or anything. No.
I mean, I would have forgotten he was even in it unless I saw him in the credits. It's just like,
I mean,
you don't remember Javier Bardem being in that film, but...
Right, yeah. It's like in when you're watching Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, you're like, oh, Christopher Maloney's in this one scene. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Or like, oh, Tobey Maguire. Oh, you totally
right. Oh, Christina Ricci's in this. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, for a movie that kind of features him, yeah, that's probably his best film. It's honestly one of Tom Cruise's best films. I mean, as an actor.
Yeah, I think you have those swings where they step outside their comfort zone, and it can really, boost who and what they are.
Which Tom Cruise is one of those guys, like we talked about earlier, where like he does not. He's just Tom Cruise in every movie.
Yeah,
I'm even in
which is why Collateral sticks out, or his little bit in that comedy Tropic Thunder.
I was gonna say that, yeah. But even that, I feel like he's just playing Tom Cruise in a fat suit.
Yes, but at least it's
different. Yeah, at least it's a little different. Yeah. At least it's not just Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise. Yeah. But yeah, well, that's my pick. I think Statham is the modern Bronson. I think and not just because he did remake a couple of Bronson films. He's filled that void, that weird void that Bronson created in the 80s. That weird subset of 80s action dudes that we have talked about many times with like, Schwarzenegger and even Lundgren and maybe even Chuck Norris, like he fills that void. Bronson does until the basically 1990. And then Statham just like is that guy. He's just like, he's a weird mix of the two dude
in a way, because like Bronson had that like everyman kind of quality that I 100%. Think, Bruce Willis kind of took that ball and ran with it. And
100%,
led to your Liam Neesons and your Keanu Reeveses and stuff like that.
John Wick for sure. Yeah.
But Statham still has that like, Jean-Claude Van Damme meets Bronson, where it's like he's a little everymanish, but he's also a super athletic, well-trained, not your normal guy. So I think he has these films where like The Beekeeper or A Working Man, or Wrath of Man or something like that, where it's
Wrath of Man, yeah.
He has this everymanish kind of quality and, very toned down affect, but also it's like he can do martial arts things that, 1% of the populace can do.
Yeah, that's true. And Bronson, like, to his credit, like, was one of those weird guys where he was like crazy cut and like he's only that I can remember, he's only taken his shirt off like a handful of times in movies, because
not enough for me. I'll tell you that. And he has shirt off a bit more in like the old westerns where he was a little younger.
Hopefully not that one where he plays the Native American.
His shirt is off in that.
Yeah, the whole time. The whole time. I know. That's a really bad.
But he's a good-looking dude.
Well, he's not, but like
I think physically,
for his body.
Well, we'll go kind of a. Can we call him a butterface? Kind of.
Sure. Yeah. I think if anybody is. And one of the reasons I love Hard Times is because it's like one of the only times he doesn't have a mustache. And his mustache is notoriously terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, but it's so terrible. Like, who's going to tell him he has a bad mustache?
Right. Yes, exactly. He's going to kick the shit out of you in an alley later. Yeah. But I mean, he's fascinating dude and fills a weird archetype in action from the fucking 50s to the 80s. That I even don't talk about, but like we wouldn't have Bloodsport if it weren't for Hard Times,
Mm-hmm.
or Kickboxer or Lionheart. Lionheart probably is the most close to Hard Times. But I mean, like, the difference in those movies is that in Hard Times, Bronson is just this like wandering Ronin, and in Lionheart, they try and make you care more about that character's motivation. You don't need that in Hard Times. It's more about everybody around him, like Coburn. Lionheart and Hard Times are essentially the same movie, but you don't root for the dude that plays his cornerman in Lionheart like you do for Coburn. Or well, I'm not going to say root for, care about the dude that plays his cornerman in Lionheart as much as you do for Coburn in Hard Times. Even though they're almost identical characters. I mean, they do the exact same beats. All of the plot points are exactly the same. The only things that are different in Lionheart is that they add that whole thing about his like brother's wife and all that. Other than that, it's the same movie.
If anything, maybe you might need to do a twofer cast, a compare and contrast, if it were a hard heart,
a double impact, a double team,
a Lion Times.
Okay, we've now created our own another new sub podcast
where we combine some movie with a Bronson film.
Well, it's better than doing it with Seagal, I guess.
No, I mean, I'd much rather go through. I mean, like, I've never seen Hard Times, so
great movie, great Walter Hill movie, well shot, well done.
It's like I'd love to watch a good movie for this podcast. Generally, we only watch bad things.
Instead of well, yeah, I know.
So it'd be fun to watch. Like, all right, we watch Hard Times and Lionheart, and like, discuss them,
actually, that would
compare
be fun.
And contrast.
Yeah,
one
that would actually
kind
be a fun time.
Led to the other.
Yeah, that would be fun, actually, because then you could do like Dark City and the Matrix, or like you could do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We could do that. That'd be fun.
Or I mean, you could even do a Cabinet of Dr. Caligari in Dark City. It depends on like how far back you want to go or what you want to do.
How pretentious you want to be?
Well,
yeah.
What? I don't. Oh, okay. Now I'm just going down a rabbit hole. All right, what if we did Assassination? Bronson and his wife.
In the Line of Fire.
I was thinking Guarding Tess with Nicolas Cage.
Ooh, we're coming from different places there.
They're both dark comedies about protecting the First Lady.
Sure.
Although Nicolas Cage and Charles Bronson are about as far apart as you can get.
You know what, though? That's a good angle, though, because I don't think a lot of podcasts do that. So if we did that, we might actually have like a, corner a market on an interesting genre. I think that's a very good idea, and I think we should write that down and pursue that.
Of pairing a Bronson film with a...
Well, just film? Like one film to another, like what led to this one. What this film led to this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I think that actually might have some traction.
There's a podcast called The Next Picture Show, and usually a newer movie they always pair with like an older movie that's similar, or so kind of a similar idea, but they do like one episode for each film, and then after the second episode they kind of do a little like compare and contrast kind of thing and whatnot.
Debrief.
Yeah.
For our thing, I think it works. That's really interesting, actually.
Oh, shit. Apparently, Bronson and Mark Singer did a film together of Jack London's The Sea Wolf. The odds of this. That's wild.
That is great.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll put that there.
Man, I had another thing I was going to say, but I can't remember it now. So don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. You know what? You know who's not going to worry about it? This guy.
Yeah. No, you're not going to at all. That's fine.